second. I've got a short intro and a introduction.
I'm back. Quick study on soccer.
Hi, this is Greg Study, and I am here with Soccer Sam, and there he is. Soccer Sam, thank you so much for joining me this morning from Boca Raton, Florida. I'm so happy to have you on board today.
I am excited to be with Study on Soccer on a Saturday morning in beautiful sunny Florida tonight. Inter Miami. Oh, Messi might play. I'm excited, Greg.
That is exciting. It's really cool that you're down there in South Florida and being able to experience what's going on down at Inter Miami. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think what this whole Messi thing proved to a lot of people, that's something I've been saying for years, man. It's all about the players. Let's face it, all these people coming here to see Messi have never watched him play before, don't really know his abilities, but they're coming in groves from all over the country to come and watch him play just because the media got behind it. And he's definitely the greatest player of all time. But it's so cool to see the transformation of that stadium. I've been a season ticket holder for 3 years. It's so cool to see. It's so alive now. It's just beautiful.
I think one of the things that a lot of us that aren't in that region of the country have been hearing on the news is the increase in ticket prices that are associated with Messi now being a part of Inter Miami. How has that affected you as a season ticket holder?
Yeah, our season ticket price went up considerably, but I think, what they're not telling you is that everything changed. So a lot of the season tickets come with like a VIP eating area. They've bumped up the food, like from hot dogs and popcorn to shrimp and lobster tails. And I'm not exaggerating. The parking's gotten easier and better and closer. In the stadium, they had their concessions. Now there's like probably 3 times as many concessions. So they've really bumped up not just the Messi thing, but the whole experience. So I look at it this way. You go to a Taylor Swift concert or you go to an NFL game or an NBA game, you're paying crazy, stupid money. I've been to NBA finals playing stupid money. I get to see the greatest player in the world with 2 of his buddies that are the second and third maybe greatest players in the world right now. Right. And they're elevating the quality of play, not only for Inter Miami, but for the MLS. So I think it's worth it. I think it's
absolutely.
My 4 season tickets went up $8,000 a year, which is a lot of money, but we're just going to get rid of other stuff to make up for it. Soccer comes first, so my kids aren't going to eat. My wife's grocery shopping right now at the Dollar Tree, but we're going to keep our Inter Miami season tickets.
That's outstanding. You got to prioritize in life, don't you?
Yeah, got to make priorities.
Well, Sam, let's talk a little bit. Let's sort of rewind the clock a little bit, okay? You and I are the same age. We both got out of high school in 1978, and I went into the travel industry. I worked in the travel industry for probably 30 years on different levels. I had a travel agency for a while. I worked for a number of different wholesale companies in sales. And then I also worked as a flight attendant, a flight service manager for Trans World Airlines for a while. But while I was doing that, you were getting going in pizza. And I understand that you got your first thing going from pizza in 1978, wasn't it? I mean, literally from some kind of a high school program that you were doing is what first got you going into the industry. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, we're not the same age. I'm a lot older than you because I was in high school for 8 years compared to your 4. But senior year, home ec class, believe it or not, they had home ec back then. And there was a pretty hot looking girl in that class that I ended up marrying. So I took the class and we did a project with pizza. I was working at a little meat market and I told my boss, hey, man, I know everything about pizza now. I know where to get the product. I know where to, how to make it, what ovens to use, all this stuff, because these pizzerias around town were part of my project, and they told me everything. So my boss agreed to, hey, let's do pizza. It'd be cool. We'll put pizza in the corner of this grocery store. And when he changed his mind, I decided I was going to open up across the street. my first pizzeria. And it was during high school. It was April or May of high school. And by the time my parents found out and he found out, I promised everyone that I would graduate from high school first. And July 5th, I opened up our first location, the first Salvators Pizza location, across from the original grocery store that I worked at as a kid. I started working there when I was 12 years old.
Well, wasn't that your uncle or something like that owned, that was your boss?
Yeah, it was my Uncle Fred Mion. Uncle Fred called me. My dad had a massive heart attack when I was 12 years old, and Uncle Fred called the house to see how he was doing. And I said, hey, by the way, I need some help. You're 12 years old now. You could stand up on your own and read and write. Why don't you come and join me here? And I did. So I worked there every night after school, 12 hours on Friday or Saturday, 12 hours on Sunday for most of my high school years. Learned a lot from the man. He was a great motivator and educator. And then when he decided he didn't want to do pizza, I felt like pizza was about to take off. I had this gut feeling. And once I broke it to him, he was totally supportive, gave me free sausage and meatballs and his sausage recipe and his meatball recipe that we still use today, 45 years later. And matter of fact, I had the privilege of running into him a couple of weeks ago. I went to Arizona to visit my sister and her new grandchild, and I got to see Uncle Fred and his wife, so it was cool.
That's a fun story, and as I understand it, the family connection sort of stuck around for a while. When you, at least at the beginning, when you opened up your first pizzeria, didn't you hire mostly friends and family to work there?
Yeah, it's funny, Greg. And my Salvatore calls right now with my owners. I think history always repeats itself. Back in the late 70s, there was an employment shortage. There was employee problems, and we couldn't find employees. There wasn't people out there. So I, got my 13-year-old cousin, my 14-year-old brother, his buddies, my buddies, anybody that I knew, aunts, uncles. My grandmother came in, my mom. Everybody came in to help, and that's how we operated. Because just like Uncle Fred called me, 4 years earlier, 4 or 5 years earlier, because there was a help shortage in America. We're experiencing that right now. So it all worked out, man. I got lucky, and a lot of those young kids today are very successful in whatever they do. My good friend Vince Vella, he became a dentist, and he's responsible for my 5th set of teeth. So I had a lot of friends that just helped out. A lot of them didn't want to get paid. A lot of them, they did get paid, didn't want to get paid a lot. And it helped me survive the tough years.
Right. Yeah. All right. So how long after you opened up your first location did you start opening up others? How long did that happen?
Well, in 1978, when I opened up, I was 17 years old. I was a kid. And I was doing things that kids do. I was still playing soccer 2-3 nights a week. I was a pro wrestler part-time, between 18 and 21. And I really didn't take it as serious as I should have. I was waiting every week for the guy to show up and to empty the Pac-Man machine, which I do have in my office in Rochester. I have a small Pac-Man machine to remind me of my beginnings. That Pac-Man machine was how I survived many years. As the guy would come, load the machine, and I was able to bring in $200-300 to pay my bills that week. And I'd play neighborhood kids for free pizza if they could beat me at Pac-Man. They couldn't beat me, so I would just keep on, building up that little 50 cents a unit to pay my salary for a while. But when I eventually got married in '83, and my wife told me she was pregnant. We were pregnant, I should say, because let me just be politically correct right now. When we were pregnant in 1983, I decided, hey, man, I got to grow up here. I got to stop playing soccer. I got to stop wrestling. I got to focus on this business. And I got lucky. There was a National Pizza Convention in Florida. I went to it. They had all these new products that hadn't come to Rochester yet, like mozzarella sticks and chicken fingers and wings and onion rings and things that pizzerias just didn't have. I immediately added them to my menu. We created full menu delivery. We deliver everything but babies. And then we took off. And then from 83 to 86, man, we were on fire as a company. And then as my young employees got older, they wanted to open up their own stores. And that's just how it happened. I'd finance them. They would open up a store once they graduated from high school. And a lot of people, our drivers, front end people, all our locations to this day are owned by people that were part of the company.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that a lot of the people that are owners have been with the family business for quite a long time. Like you say, in some cases, since first job all the way through to ownership of the franchise. I mean, how awesome is that? It's a great story. And I also know that at some point, I don't know if I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit here, but at some point there was a national ranking of pizzerias around the country, and Salvatore's Old Fashioned Pizza was ranked 55. Is that correct?
Yeah. So prior to COVID, there's a pizza magazine called Pizza Today, and they would rate pizzerias based on the volume of sales and the number of locations they had. And a lot of suppliers kind of put input into this, and we were our best rating was 55. We're 65, I think, at 1.78. Like, we were rated in the top 100, I think, for 3 times. And then since COVID, they haven't done the ranking. But yeah, we were in the top 100 based on volume of sales in the store. So, because of our full menu delivery, we do a lot larger sales than per unit than a lot of the pizzerias out there that are just doing pizza and wings or pizza and subs. So we do very well in our, and we got ranked pretty high. So it was a big honor.
So what is it? Talk to me about what is it that makes Salvatore's Old Fashioned Pizza the go-to pizza that I want to go and have some. And by the way, I really would like to try it. But why is it? What makes it special? Why is it different than going to the other pizzeria that's down the street and around the corner?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question, but basically, recipe wise, it's not just flour, water, in the dough. It's real California tomatoes. It's real mozzarella. It's the wax underneath the box. It's the cup holder so the box doesn't hit the box. It's drivers in great uniforms, staff well trained. So the product is part of it, but the other part of it is my dream team, my marketing team. We since like the early days, I got lucky with radio. I learned, how important it was to advertise. And back then, pizzerias didn't advertise on radio and TV. So I became Salvatore's became like a household name on radio and TV. And a lot of it was trade in the early days when we had no money, but we continue to be on the radio and TV all the time. So that helps get you to make a choice, top of mind. Who do I call tonight? And, some people, they're calling because of price. Some people, they're calling because of coupon. My focus is we have to be top of mind, and top of mind, sometimes is just the quality of the food. It's the quality of the marketing, and it's the experience. So that's what we work on. And we rate our stores weekly on their sales. We rate them monthly, and we track it hard. And if somebody slips a little bit or somebody's flat, we figure out right away why, and we try to fix that.
Wow. And that's not the only place that you've gone in the food industry. I mean, I know that you have Donuts Delight as well, but even that is not the only place you've gone. What other areas have you branched out into as far as the food industry is concerned?
Well, Donuts Delight was an old 1958 donut shop that closed down. And when I was working for the Rochester Rhinos, I drive by that building every morning. It was on my route to work. And I kept on texting the realtor, or I don't even know if texting was big back then. I might have been calling the realtor to ask him, lowball him a price. He finally bid on it. And we reopened this donut shop thinking it was going to be a pizzeria donut shop and not understanding how important the donuts were. And the family that used to own it got behind us, and it just exploded. To this day, this morning, there's lines around the building, people getting donuts. So that's one, the Donuts Delight. We brought back Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. I'm not sure if it's big in your area, but it was big in Rochester, New York back in the day. And I just happened to see it in Florida one day at a restaurant, did a little homework, found out that the franchise was still available. So I brought in Arthur Treacher's. And locally in Rochester, New York, there's a hot dog company called Nick Tahoe's, and we're doing everything in our power to preserve that brand and bring it back to life. And so, I mean, the food part of it, I just love. I love to eat. I love food, and I love Rochester history. So that like I said to you earlier, it's probably easier for me than actual soccer. Soccer is the toughest business in the world. the food stuff is a piece of cake. You give people good product at a good price, and you market it well, and you have the right people around you. It's really a piece of cake.
Well, one of the things that I'm seeing here, sort of a pattern, is, and this would include your involvement in soccer as well, is that you are bringing back brands. I mean, obviously you've started your own brand with the pizza organization, but you're bringing back old, retired, out of work, out of business brands from the Rochester area, and that would include the Rochester Lancers as well. What is it about that? Is it just your love for the history of the look of the area around Rochester?
I mean, Greg, I had a little setback in 2009, lost my brain a little bit. So I started doing a lot of homework and learning, once I learned how to read again, which I really did have to learn how to read again. But once I learned how to read again, I loved reading about the history of Rochester. And I just feel like, hey, that's my city. I spend a lot of time in Florida right now because my wife's parents are here. That's the real reason. It's not really in Miami, but my in-laws are in their 90s and my wife takes care of them. But, I spent a lot of time in Florida, but Rochester is my home base. It's the place I love. And, I found out a way. I was registering Super Slice or something pizza related, and the Rochester Lancer name and logo was available. I bought it. It was on my wall forever in a plaque. And then when I had the chance to bring back the team, I used it. I'm working on bringing back Carvel right now to Rochester Market. Carvel ice cream was big for years. It's gone. And my aunt and uncle, or my uncle, one day we went to lunch with my two uncles, and they tell me as kids, my uncle had me in his 64 Chevy at Carvel, and the car started driving down the hill, and I did something to the car, and I'm thinking, what's Carvel? So I get home and I start studying about Carvel, like Carvel. I'm thinking, why is there no Carvel here in Rochester anymore? And then I come to Florida, there's a Carvel's, do the homework. I'm doing the groundwork right now to bring that back. So it's just like, I just love Rochester history. So that's part of it, I guess. And the Lancer thing was kind of fell into that whole mindset of my goofy brain.
When did you? I mean, you were playing soccer as a youngster, but when did you start looking at the possibility of getting involved on an ownership level in professional soccer?
Well, it happened with the Rhinos, basically.
Right.
Rhinos for years with the original group were three great guys, and when they built the new stadium, it didn't go as planned, and the stadium got taken over by the bank. The bank hired me, and part of my negotiation was a piece of the ownership of the team. So I got a taste of that a little bit. And then I got sick and was trying to find myself for years, 3 years, 4 years. And Christy Canamides, who's a lifelong friend, reminded me how much I loved indoor soccer. I was with the Buffalo Blizzard back in the day, and I promoted them on my TV and radio show like crazy. And he said, hey, we're doing this new indoor league. Love you to be part of it. And that's when I decided to go full force. My family thought that if I got back in soccer, it would help me regain my memory. And I did remember that I do love indoor soccer, man, more than anything in the world. It's the greatest sport on turf. It's the greatest sport. I go to Inter Miami games. I love the people around me. I love now that Messi's there, but there's no comparison to an indoor soccer game. There's no comparison.
No, I agree 100%. And I agree 100%. It is the best. It's the best sport there is. So you've mentioned a couple of times, you've made reference to a health issue that you had to get through. Talk a little bit about how that got started. I mean, I know that you were battling a weight issue that sort of led into that. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that happened?
Sure. So I was with the Rhinos for the 2 years that I was there, and things were going really well. But unfortunately, I was having 2-3 lunches a day. I was selling to big sponsors, and I'd have a lunch at 12, a lunch at 1, and a lunch at 3, and then get home. My wife would have a big Italian spread for me. So before I knew it, I was 400 pounds. Like I told you earlier, when I sweat, I smell like bacon. I invented button fly jeans. When I sat down, the buttons went flying. I mean, I was big, man. When I wore a striped shirt, it looked like stretch marks. But so I decided to have the surgery. When I decided to have surgery, I said to Rob Clark, the owner, the banker that owned the team, hey, I just need a couple weeks off having the surgery. And I didn't realize that it was going to go wrong. What happened is the two doctors, my primary and the surgeon, both probably good guys in real life, weren't communicating. So they both were giving me blood thinners, and I bled internally after the surgery, and I basically died. And when they revived me, the doctor that revived me, Dr. Di Benedetto, and the priest that was there, because they're basically reading my last rites and all that, they were fighting over each other who really saved me. But when I came through, I didn't have any idea who I was, what I was. I didn't know who the hot blonde was that was holding my hand, ended up being my wife. So I had to like start all over, man. And it obviously could have been a lot worse. You know, I could, been in, the therapy I went to and all the things I went through. I saw people that were in a lot worse shape than me, and it kept me motivated, thinking this isn't so bad, and I could get through this, and I did. So I had to relearn everything again. The hardest part is not remembering your kids being born and your wedding and some old friends, but everything in life is meant to be, in my opinion. And I was doing this TV show called the Soccer Sam Show since 1994, and I had all these VHS tapes in my basement. Well, my grandson at the time, Santino, was like 4 or 5 years old. I throw in a VHS of this show, and his mom, my daughter, happened to be on this first episode. So all of a sudden, this kid wants to watch every episode of the Soccer Sam Show. So we watch every episode that I had, and Christy Economides is in multiple episodes. Billy Andrecki's in multiple episodes. Frank DuRoss, who is the guy behind the whole Utica, Syracuse going to Utica. I mean, Tommy Tanner. I felt connected to all these people. And as time went on, I got to know these people, and I felt like I already knew them. And it was kind of cool, man. It's like, so yeah, I lost my brain. I didn't lose a lot physically, but mentally I lost my brain, but I figured out a way to get through it. And the best advice I got from one of my neurologists was, when you lose your brain, you got millions of lights in there. Some lights went dark, which are my memory lights, but other lights have gotten way brighter. And I focus on the bright lights. And that's what I focus on every day, man. Like right now, I'm here on the show with you. I'm focusing on the bright lights, not the dark lights. And those bright lights are business I love, marketing I love, soccer I love. I try to focus on that and not the negative.
So you made a comment that the most difficult thing to operate has been a soccer team. That making that happen. And well, I mean, when I say we, I mean anybody that knows anything about indoor soccer or the Rochester Lancers more specifically, knows you have come and gone a little bit. You kind of disappeared for a little bit. You've gone M1, you've gone M2, you've got the Lady Lancers happening, you've got the outdoor Lancers going on in a second or third tier league. So I mean, you're still engaged in it, but I know that you bounce back and forth. But before we talk about that, talk a little bit about the Soccer Sam Show. The Soccer Sam Show was a television show, and then I know that you did Kick This. I was with you for a couple of years on Kick This on the radio show. Talk a little bit about that and how that. I know I loved it too. I look forward to that every Saturday. I was a little heartbroken when you decided that. Actually, I was very heartbroken when you decided to discontinue your radio show. But I've had the privilege of being on with Andrew Battisti on Soccer is a Kick in the Grass a couple of times. So that's been really cool as well. But excuse me. But yeah, talk a little bit about the audio and video aspect of promoting soccer from your standpoint.
Yeah, so like in 93 or 94, this new thing came to Rochester, New York called Cable Access TV. And my wife and I were running this soccer league called the Irondequoit Falls Soccer League, the IFSL. So I went to them to see if I could highlight some of my games, or at least an all-star game, on this new thing called Cable Access TV. So, they gave me the forum to do that. And I soon learned how to do video and audio and editing and all that. So I started covering the men's national team. These guys in Buffalo, New York started this group called Sam's Army. So I was following the men's national team. And then after the men's national team, there's this team in Buffalo, New York called Buffalo Blizzard. So my show was local, where I would cover local high school soccer, including Abby Wambach when she was a high school player. And then I would cover some of the amateur teams, but then I would cover the men's and women's national team. I was like one of the only reporters in the locker room. I was the only guy covering these guys back in the day. And I'm still friends with a lot of the people in the business, Lexi Lawless and stuff. I mean, you know, they remember me from the day, because there wasn't a lot of people that cared about them. And you know, Mia Hamm and, you know, that whole era. And that was part of my show. So I did that. And then all of a sudden in 96, Christy Canamides, high school friend of mine, says he's going to bring the Rhinos to town. So I turned all my focus onto helping pro soccer in Rochester and the Rhinos. So my show, my half-hour weekly show, became really a Rhinos infomercial for years and years. And then, you know, I did the radio show, you know, the same time period. The radio show started a little later, like a few years later. I think it started like a week after Soccer's a Kick in the Grass. He talks about that they're the longest running soccer show in America. They're still running, but I started like a week after them. But so basically the TV thing, after I got sick, we stopped the TV show. The radio show, I continued after I got sick, with Jeff DeVeronica and you and Andrew and a bunch of great people. But during COVID, or right before COVID, I kind of crossed the line a little bit with one of my harmless jokes, and I got brought into a meeting, and I thought, you know what, man, I can't jeopardize my past career over this goofy character that I portray on the radio, sometimes saying things that I don't think are politically correct or whatever. And I decided it wasn't worth it anymore. The world got too sensitive, and I stopped doing radio, and that's what happened to TV and radio, brother.
Yeah. So I did not realize that there was that conflict that was taking place, but I did know, of course I knew that you had characterized yourself on the radio broadcast, that you were playing a role somewhat while you were on the radio broadcast. But before we get to that, this is not something that's unique for you, because you're Dr. Love, you're the wrestler, buddy. So I mean, you when you were a young man, you were in professional wrestling as Dr. Love. Talk a little bit about how that was going on.
My wife's a hairdresser by trade, and she tells me, hey, I'm doing this guy's hair that we went to high school with. He's a pro wrestler now, Tim Reed. Next thing you know, I'm in wrestling school. Next thing you know, I'm Dr. Love. She's Nurse Nice Lips. We're traveling around the country wrestling. Dr. Pleasure and Dr. Love become tag team champs. I got a tryout with WWE or WWF at the time, and with Lou Albano, Captain Lou Albano. He told me I didn't have it, and which I don't think I did have it. It was more of a character, and the whole Dr. Love character I brought to my Soccer Sam show when I started doing these IFSL shows on cable access. I brought that wacky character with the sunglasses and all that to the show, and I kind of incorporated a little bit of a 12-year-old soccer nut on Ritalin. They needed Ritalin, and I put it all together, and that's how it all happened. It happened in Italy. I was in Italy the summer before I launched the TV show, and there was this wacky guy on TV that grabbed my attention. I'm thinking, you know what? If I want the American sports fan that hates soccer to tune into my show, I got to be a little off target here. And the wardrobe, the glasses, the wackiness, and it worked, man. Over the years, I've had hundreds of people tell me that, I used to watch your show. I would laugh, your stupid skits and all that. But meanwhile, I was just trying to get you to like soccer and try to get you to go to a Rhino game. And it worked. So yeah, the whole Soccer Sam character is really Dr. Love, but more PG-13. And then I added in, sometimes a kid that loves soccer, and that's what I try to be when I'm in the zone. And I still do it at the games when I announce the players and all that. I'm still somewhat in character, but people that meet me when I'm not in character think like something's wrong with me, like I'm depressed, or like, hey, what's going on? You all right? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm here grocery shopping, man. Like, what do you want me to jump up and down and put on a wacky outfit for you. It's like, I just want to get some lemons here and go make iced tea at home. Like, leave me alone. But people like think I'm supposed to be in character at all times, and the real me is really shy and quiet. But I'm somewhat in character right now, trying to be on the show here with you. I'm somewhat pushing myself.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it took. I gotta be honest. It took me a little bit of time to recognize that, because every time that you and I had any interaction for a long time, it was directly related to the show, and I mean, besides that, we had only chatted back and forth, with text messages in some way. We hadn't really talked on the phone much, and so it took me a little while to recognize sort of the same thing. I mean, when you're you and you're not in character, you're a different guy. I mean, you're not Soccer Sam. Soccer Sam is not necessarily Salvatore Fantauzzo.
Yeah, totally different. My wife will tell you, I'm quiet, my brain's spinning. When we were at the Tropics game together, I'm studying the game. I'm studying every player's move. I'm like studying the production.
Right.
I'm studying camera angles. My brain's at a different level, and I mean, that's where I go with it. And then, when I'm trying to be, help the sport, I'm just different. And, but the Soccer Sam show, the Soccer Sam character, in my opinion, saved my life, because it was some dark times to come out of what I came out of. And I got to see who I was and how much fun it was. And I just went with that, and it helped me a lot. And I'm so happy I did. And Rich Randall, who was my GM with the Rhinos, ended up being my GM with the Lancers, and he helped save me in a lot of ways. And he brought in some of the interns that were with us with the Rhinos, and they are still with me to this day. Kayla Clark Kent's my right-hand girl. She's with me this day. She was an intern with the Rhinos. Ashley King was an intern with the Lancers, a merchandise girl. She's my left-hand girl. I mean, they run the whole business side of things. And then now we just do soccer to get a mental release from how difficult the business side is, because it's hard, man. I mean, it's a lot of work. Right. We're competing with national chains, national supermarkets every day, and we kick their butt. But we do it because we got a lot of good people, working hard at it. And but I'm blessed that the whole Soccer Connection brought these people into my lives, and they're still in my lives, and it's so cool. And so that's what we're doing. And obviously, my franchisees that've been with me since day one, they work their stores, they answer the phone, and they get the online orders that my staff helps create for them. And as long as they do the food right and the service right, we'll just keep on keeping that phone ringing for them, and those online orders spitting out of that printer. But I just got lucky with the people around me.
Yeah, well, luck's part of it. I mean, you keep those people around you that are, that work with you, that work for you, that work with your personality and how you can. I mean, building a staff and building that kind of thing is not something that is an easy thing to do, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about do we lose you? Oh, there we go. Let's talk a little bit about the Rochester Lancers and your involvement with because I mean the brand is like 1967 or something like that. The Rochester Lancers won the NASL championship in 1970, I think it was. When was it that you actually purchased? What year was it that you actually purchased the logo and the brand?
It was mid 80s. It was somehow available, and I checked my lawyer, and it was, I was paying, from like probably 86 to 2011 when we launched the team. I would just pay so much a year. I'd have to have some sales, so we'd sell T-shirts or whatever to kind of keep the brand going. But I never thought I'd ever do a pro team with it. And then when Chris Economides called me about doing the Indoor Lancers, I went to the original owner, Charlie Sciano, and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I own it, but do you mind if I use it? I mean, it's your baby. I won't let you down. I won't, harm your brand, your history in any way, and I'll pay tribute to you guys." We did a Wall of Fame. Andrew Battisti helped with that with Michael Lewis and Joe Sirianni. We did the Wall of Fame, and we brought tribute to all the guys that were forgotten. And by the time the Indoor Lancers started in 2011, a lot of people had no clue who the original Lancers were. So we helped keep them around and alive. But you mentioned it earlier. What happened? Indoor, outdoor, in and out, in and out. I mean, like most of the teams in our league right now. You take Utica out of the mix, and very soon San Diego. None of them have good arena deals, and I couldn't get an arena deal. And when the Pagula family bought the Blue Cross Arena for $1 from the city of Rochester, the Pagula family decided to get rid of all the other sports tenants: soccer team, hockey, lacrosse team, and basketball team. Well, the lacrosse team, the lacrosse owners, the National Lacrosse League figured out a way to get them to buy the lacrosse team there, and kept that there. But they threw the basketball team out, the Razor Sharks, and have been there for years, and us. And it was tough, kind of finding a new home. There's not a secondary venue that works in Rochester, New York. And eventually we came back in M2 at this Dome Arena that someone had bought and put some money into it, but it was never a sports arena. It was more of a concert hall. So it's like renting a union hall to do a wedding. You got to bring in the stage, the band, the music, the tables, the chairs. We had to bring in everything, man, from the scoreboard to the audio to the cameras. It was a 4-day process, 12 hours to just pull off a game. And that's why we had back-to-back weekend games, because it took so long to establish that. And then after COVID, it became a COVID site, and the Dome Arena guy was getting money from the state of New York to do COVID and booster shots, COVID shots and then booster shots. So it never really officially reopened. And so now we're playing at TSC. But I got to tell you something's kind of funny, if I could, because I got to give my wife a little shout out. So my wife says to me, when I tell her we're going to play at TSC is 500 people. She goes, Sam, you went from 14,000 people with the Rhinos. Then you went to 10,000 people a game with the Lancers, the Blue Cross Arena. Then you moved to the Dome with 3,000 fans a game. Now you're going to have 500 people. What's next? Our basement? It's like no, I'm not going to ever play in our basement. But it's the only way I could keep the sport alive right now in Rochester that makes sense. And that's why you got to give credit to all these owners in the major arena soccer league right now. They get the worst dates. They don't get the red carpet treatment from any of the arena owners. They don't get concessions. They don't get parking, but they're doing it for the love of the game and the love of the fans. And you got to give all those owners so much credit, man, because it is so hard to do what they do. You make the playoffs, you might get a Thursday night game. Right. And if you're lucky, and you got 2 days to sell it, and the arena's not going to help you sell it. The media for sure is not going to help you sell it. It's truly remarkable what these guys do, and I love them all for doing it. I wasn't able to do it. I don't have a place. If somebody right now, they're giving the Bills billions of dollars, the Buffalo Bills billions of dollars to build a brand new NFL stadium. The state of New York is, I wish somebody would figure out a way to solicit the state of New York. I've tried, I failed, but maybe if somebody else more powerful than me does it, to get a nice 3,000 to 5,000 seat arena in our area, I'd bring back M1 in a heartbeat. But right now we're content with playing M2, developing players, developing coaches, developing interns that maybe could go on to Major League Baseball and NFL and NBA, which a lot of our interns have over the years. So I'm content with that right now. And our players love it. Our fans love it. It's 500 fans a game. Greg, if you go to NPSL games, you go to USL games, you go to NISA games, a lot of those outdoor sports leagues aren't drawing 500 fans a game. So we get 500 fans a game, and they're having a great time, and I'm loving it. So we're going to continue this route until something happens.
So you mentioned the M1, M2. Can you explain? I mean, I know a little bit about the answer here, but for the sake of people listening and watching, can you explain the owner's position difference? What's the difference from the owner's perspective of being in M1 as opposed to being in M2?
The owners have to be prepared to lose money. Basically, the difference between M1 and M2 is M2, you're not paying the players. You're not paying workman's comp. Those are your two biggest expenses. Travel is a lot more controlled. So as a fan, in my opinion, there's not much difference. As a fan, you're going to see quality indoor soccer And if you come to a Lancer game, you know, it's the show, baby. We still put on the show for those 500 fans. It feels like a show. But the difference is in M1, you got crazy arena rents, like I said earlier. You have workman's comp, you have payroll, you have travel, and the numbers don't work. There's no TV budget. There's no extra money here or there. These owners do it for the love of the sport, thinking that someday, just like the NFL owners did back in the day, and the NBA owners did back in the day, someday there's going to be payday, and our franchise is going to be worth a lot of money. And I think that's what we've all been in this thinking. Okay, we're going to lose $1 million, you know, this year, or 500,000 this year, but maybe in 3 years the league's going to take off. And in my opinion, you know, I think we have 3 issues. And the number one issue we already touched on is you need to own the arenas. That's what saved MLS. They own the stadiums. Phil Salvatio is doing the right thing in San Diego. If we could figure out how to get public funding like the NFL teams do and like NBA teams do to get their multi-billion-dollar arenas built for free, if we could get public funding to build our arenas. They did it in Utica. Utica got public funding to renovate their arena, you know, they control the concessions, they control the parking, they control the dates. That's number one issue in our sport. If we could do that, then we could get into the other issue. And the other issue is control. Same size field, same size, you know, same size field, same color turf, same, you know, boards up or boards down. I mean, there needs to be either a franchise system or you know, a sole system like they have in MLS, where all the owners have to buy into it. I mean, I go to Inter Miami games. If I go to one of their away games, the tickets I buy, it feels like I'm at an Inter Miami game. It's the same, similar parking, similar VIP area. The production's almost the same. You know, MLS is like a food franchise. It's like everything's got to be the same. You go to a Five Guys or Chipotle or Starbucks. I mean, it feels the same, no matter what city you're in. It has to feel that way in sports, and it does in the NBA. It does in the NFL. It does in Major League Soccer. It doesn't in indoor soccer. And if we could fix that, I think we already have the star players. We don't know how to market them, but we have them in every city. Unfortunately. You know, unfortunately, they're not on billboards, they're not on buses, they're not on TV, they're not on radio. But every city in our sport has a star player. But we need to fix the 2 biggest issues. Number one, we need arenas owned by the team owners, and we need some type of franchise system where everything is the same. And I think by that you'll get the sponsors you need. I've tried, Greg. You know, behind closed doors. 5 years ago, I came this close to getting a Nickelodeon deal for our league, and Nickelodeon, in my opinion, in my wacky brain, took my ideas and brought it to the NFL. And when you see the NFL on Nickelodeon, that's exactly what I sold them on. This is a niche sport. Kids love it. You know, do the slime, do the cool announcers, do the wacky stuff, and we'll have, you know, a wild green turf, not traditional green turf, like a wild lime green turf, and cool colored boards, and a light show, and the smoke show, and the fireworks. And I tried to sell that to a contact I had through a former intern of mine that worked for Nickelodeon, and I failed at it. But if we could somehow fix the things I just talked about, fix the arenas, own the arenas, fix the system where everything's the same, and we get a Nickelodeon or an Apple or a big company to get behind the sport, I think, man, this thing could be bigger than MLS. It could be bigger than NHL. You know, it'd be tough to ever compete with NFL or NBA, but I think it could be there.
What comes first? This is sort of the chicken or the egg kind of a question, but what comes first? Doesn't there need to be attendance pretty much at every venue before anybody's going to take any kind of a broadcast organization is going to take it seriously?
Not exactly. Sometimes it's just connections, man. I believe in business and in life, it's all about connections. For whatever reason, prior commissioners and prior guys that ran the league and current commissioners and guys that run the league, all great people, but they haven't made that connection. When you watch TV, like I see, you mentioned how I mentioned comments, like you see, pickleball's on TV right now, and that game where you throw the bag in the hole. What's that called? Cornball. They're on ESPN. It's not because they have viewers. It's because somebody had a connection with somebody in those leagues, and it just happens that way. Vince McMahon back in the day with WWE or WWF, if you do some homework on it, he had a connection with USA TV. USA was hungry to bring in sports, and timing, connections, and the rest is history. So I'm not buying the fact that you need attendance to get the big sponsor or to get the big owner by a team. I don't believe that at all. I think it would help. Don't get me wrong. But like I said to you earlier, it's the toughest business in the world. You and I tomorrow could go work for Inter Miami in the ticket department and make crazy commissions and do absolutely nothing but answer the phone or answer our emails because people want tickets. You and I could go work for the Buffalo Bills and we'll look like heroes, man. Oh, today I sold 1,000 season tickets or I sold 500 season tickets. I did absolutely nothing other than answer my phone or answer my email. Indoor soccer and soccer in general at the lower levels, you have to go out with a fishing pole and drag in the people. You have to drag them in because the media is not behind it. The media is not helping you. So you have to go and make it happen. And what we do by accident is we sometimes hire executives from other sports that basically have positions that I just talked about you and I having if we went to the NFL or we went to Inter Miami. And we think that these former NHL guys or these former NBA guys are going to turn our franchise around. There's very few people that can do that. You need to have that small business owner mindset and figure out a way to bring in your fans into your small business and lock them in. And we had a lot of success with that, but a lot of teams are struggling with it. And part of the reason they're struggling with it is, in my opinion, am I going too fast here? Am I going too long, Greg?
No, absolutely not. You're great.
In my opinion, everybody's focusing on the soccer clubs and the soccer teams. And that's a once a year, twice a season hit. Unlike when you and I played as kids, most soccer parents are at soccer 6 nights a week. Being at an indoor soccer game is the last freaking thing on their mind. And what do? They're all focusing on indoor soccer and having the kids play at halftime and all that. That's your least focus. Your focus needs to be the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the dance teams, the union groups, the adult living homes, the youth living homes. That's going to be the people that maybe 10% might end up being season ticket holders and might fall in love with the game. But that soccer kid that comes with his parents, even if he falls in love with the game, he can't find the time to come to the game because soccer is such a cash cow right now and such a money grab that these poor parents are got their kids involved 6 days a week. So that's not the focus. You got to focus outside the box. Our focus with the Lancers, when we were drawing 10,000 fans a game, and people say, well, yeah, Sam, you gave away your tickets for free. No, we didn't give away tickets for free. We had kids are free. And the reason kids were free is I promised Charlie Schiano when I asked him if I could use his name and logo to respect the man. He said, as long as you don't charge the kids, because we didn't charge the kids. And that's why you're a soccer nut right now. That's why Joe Giuliano and Andrew Battisti are soccer nuts right now, because they came as kids. Before we played youth soccer, we were kids. Right. We were 5, 6-year-old kids coming to the game with our parents because our parents wanted something to do with us. So they brought us to soccer games because it was free for us. So, we drew 10,000 fans a game, but part of the reason it wasn't just the kids are free. It was to come see Jimmy Superfly Snuka. It was to come to see Marv Levy. It was to come to see Abby Wambach. Anybody, the guys from, I can't even think of now. There was a famous show on TV, on MTV. We brought in Snooki and the other guy that was part of Snooki's entourage. We went outside the box. So right now you're hearing all this talk about Taylor Swift and the NFL ratings because she might be dating that NFL player. I mean, you need to go outside of the soccer box, and that's what we did, and it worked.
Right.
And it worked when I was with the Rhinos. Every game, our anthem singer was huge. Our halftime show was huge. We didn't have little kids running down the field at halftime. Nobody wants to see that other than their parents and their grandparents. We had a show at halftime, and that's what needs to change.
Right.
And so I think, I've sent every owner in this league a manual that I wrote years ago called Saving Soccer, and a lot of those ideas are in there. Some have used it. I know for a fact Inter Miami has used it, and it's worked for them.
Wow.
And I think it could work for any team. But we have, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of successful owners in our league, and drawing 3,000 fans today is different than drawing 10,000 fans in 2011. If you could draw 3,000 to 4,000 fans a game, every game, paid, I mean, that's money, man. That's where we could live with that. And I think we'll be fine with that. And I think, but if the owners could get their own arenas, Greg, and own their arenas, and instead of hiring guys to fight the whole player thing with the visa thing. If I was an owner right now, or I had a say in the league, I wouldn't fight the visa issue because it's a losing battle.
Right.
Our government isn't allowing visas for employees of national chains, so they're not going to allow visa players for a league like ours. I would use that same money and hire people, bid writers, and guys that go solicit for you to get a stadium in your area, get a brand new arena in your area. That's what I would focus on. How do we get this free money that NFL is getting, NBA is getting, and auditoriums are getting for their in Rochester, New York, they just redid an auditorium. They got all millions of dollars of free money. How do we get that money in our state to build a new arena? And if we could build new arenas in every city, just like MLS did, some MLS teams were privately funded, but a lot of them got free money too. If we could just follow what MLS did and control our dates, control concessions, parking, and other dates, indoor soccer is going to take off like you've never seen its sport take off before.
Yeah, I would agree that really is sort of the magic trick. Talk a little bit about what your take is on why there have been so many failed leagues in American indoor soccer. I mean, there's been so many. I think you've heard me use the term alphabet soup of failed leagues. And what's your take on that? Why have, I mean, you go all the way back to what you're talking about when it was 10,000 fans, and now it's a completely different beast. But why is this happening? Why has this happened? Oh, and by the way, what's the magic trick that's keeping the MASL around?
Well, I mean, I obviously have a lot of friends in the business, so I got to be careful what I say. But I think in the early days, when everybody thought they were filling up arenas, they were owned by either the hockey team in the arena or the basketball team in the arena, and I think it was almost an embarrassment to the hockey teams. And if you talk to people, history will tell you that the hockey owners and the basketball owners were embarrassed that their soccer teams were doing better than their hockey team. So their egos, they stole a lot of ideas from indoor soccer with the name, the logos on the boards and the light show and the dancers and all the things that we used to do. But they didn't put the effort into it. And then you have the issue with egos, and then you got too many egos in the business. And like I've said before, Jerry Jones is probably the worst guy to be in an NFL meeting with. And just like Jerry Buss probably was in the NBA. But sometimes those ego guys make the difference of keeping this league alive or not alive. And I think sometimes we don't respect the ego guys like we should. But these leagues failed, in my opinion, is they weren't running it like a small business. You have to treat indoor professional soccer right now as a small business, because that's what it is right now. And when it becomes a big business, you treat it like a big business. But you have to not have high overhead. You can't have high league dues. You can't have high payroll. The players don't want to hear that are watching right now. I'm sorry, guys. But I can tell you, I was part of the National Lacrosse League with the Rochester team, the Nighthawks, back in the day. Players all had full-time jobs. They weren't getting paid big money. They show up game day. There were teachers and firemen and policemen. The local guys were the local guys, but the guys that came in from out of town would show up game day. They'd do a pass around, or whatever they call it in lacrosse, and then they put on a show. But the turf was all brand new at every arena. It was the same size turf. The light show was the same. Everything, it felt the same. And that league figured out a way to make it feel and look the same. And that's how it grew, where we've allowed almost like to keep the league alive, people to do whatever they need to do to in their own arenas. Like I said earlier, glass up or glass down. Size of field doesn't matter. Hey, you want green turf? That's cool. You want red turf? That's cool. No, man. You need to make it feel like a real league, like a real franchise. And until that happens, you're going to have this up and down thing. I think in Major League Soccer, they got lucky with Don Garber. He had a lot of history, working in the NFL, brought in a lot of key people with him, and they basically just followed that footprint. You have to follow, in our league, we have to follow the footprint of what works. And we're not in England. We're not in Italy. We're not in Ireland. Let's figure out what works in America. What works in America is home game on one Sunday, the next week. If it's Saturday, if it's Sunday, it's a consistent date in American football, which in my opinion is the best league in America right now. And it's not like 4 weeks for no game and then you have this random game. So you need a consistent schedule where you play home this Sunday, next Sunday you're away, the following Sunday you're home, the following Sunday you're away. Or if it's Wednesday night, that's fine, but that's your night. In Inter Miami, it's usually Wednesdays and Saturdays, always. There's no Thursday night game, there's no Sunday afternoon game. It's consistency. Right. So if the MASL figured out a way to control the arenas, they could have consistent dates. They could have consistent size arenas. And by the way, I'll say this right here, Greg, I like the smaller field. I know you do. Yeah, I think the smaller field is more exciting. And you'll watch tonight. Tonight, if you get a chance to watch Apple TV and watch MLS, those guys, those Inter Miami guys, they'll knock the ball around the backfield 20 times before they go forward. And you see that a lot in our league. That can't happen on a small field, man. There's so much pressure on you to get rid of the ball. And when I'm in Baltimore, man, your heart's beating fast. It's just nonstop action. So I think a smaller arena is easier to build, easier to rent, because there's a lot more basketball size arenas than there is hockey size arenas with dates. So interesting. Yeah, I know half the guys are gonna think I'm crazy, but and the other thing, which is huge, which you're never gonna agree with me, but I still love you, man, is multi-point scoring. Multi-point scoring is what destroyed the sport. And you're not going to agree with me, but I'm telling you for a fact that the guys that love, you and I are rare, very rare, but the guys that love outdoor soccer, those guys that are watching English Premier right now, sitting there with their Guinness and watching English Premier, they'll never, ever appreciate indoor soccer. Those guys watching Serie A on Sunday, eating their spaghetti and meatballs and watching their Italian soccer league, they'll never, ever appreciate indoor soccer. But what did we try to do? We tried to cater to that fan. Can't have multi-point scoring because that's not soccer. Well, guess what? We aren't drawing soccer fans. We're drawing casual sports fans that hate soccer. So what the multi-point scoring did was get those casual fans that hate soccer to come to your games because it didn't feel like soccer anymore. Well, right now, it kind of feels like soccer again. It's 1-point goals. Let's throw a flag. Let's do the replay. Let's watch the replay. See if the guy – it's like you got to go back to, it's not going to probably happen in my lifetime, but if I got Nickelodeon to bite back 5 years ago, it was going to be multi-point scoring. It was going to be the show, and it was going to be designed to get the casual fan that hates soccer to come to the game and love soccer. And because we're never, ever going to get the purists to love our sport. So I said a lot there, but that's the reason why I think the sport has failed. I mean, I think all those things combined, I can tell you for a fact, Greg, and people, you weren't there with me. I owned a team for 5 years in indoor at the Blue Cross Arena. When I would go to those MISL cities, when we had multi-point scoring, there was rarely less than 5,000 fans in the arenas. Rarely. Don't get me wrong. Every year you had that lemon franchise that every sport league has. Every sport league has those lemon franchises. We would have those. But in all the other arenas, they were jamming, man. And a lot of those same arenas that are in our league right now had a whole different vibe of fans in those arenas. Now, was it COVID? Was it we lost a ticket guy that used to sell thousands of seats a game? Or was it that casual fan that thought it was cool and unique to go to an indoor match because it was different? I think it's a combination of a lot of those things, but I think the losing that multi-point scoring did not help us. It hurt us more than it helped us. And I can tell you as a fan and as an owner, the first year that we came back in M2 and it wasn't multi-point scoring, we had 3,200 people at the Dome Arena, sold out. Probably 30 people came up to me. No exaggeration. No multi-point scoring. What is this crap? 1-point goals. What is this crap? I mean, those guys don't watch English Premier. Those guys don't watch MLS. That group of people, they loved indoor soccer, and they grew up in an era where that's what indoor soccer was. So, I could go all day here with that, man, but I could tell you with the Lancers and guys that played for me with the Lancers at the Blue Cross Arena, if we had less than 6,000 people in the building, Greg, they would go find my life jacket because I was ready to jump off a bridge. I mean, we were striving for 6,000 plus a game, and we got them. And it was because it was a show. It was multi-point scoring. It was these cool star players, the cool hairdos, the Mohawks, the Capito brothers, Mauricio Salas, Doug Miller, Elliot Fauski, the Mohican Warrior. I mean, we made it a show. And unfortunately, I don't think the teams right now focus on the show as much as they should. And I hope if they listen to this interview, they're either going to hate me or they're going to focus on the show a little bit more. And if they got one player that's amazing, market the crap out of that player and just run with it. And maybe the media will get behind you.
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting because I've had that similar discussions with Julie Villa frequently about what's going on with indoor soccer, and it's frustrating. He'll come to the games occasionally, and he usually leaves about halftime because it's like it doesn't have the same environment that he was used to when he was playing. There's not the same excitement playing at the same arena. They're playing at the same arena, but there's 3,000 fans instead of 12,000 fans. And it doesn't have that same electricity. And so he usually ends up leaving about halftime. But one of the things that he says is exactly your point is, find a player. I mean, he was that player when he was playing. He was the guy that was marketed. He was the marquee guy, for the team. And that's his angle, find that marquee player and market the heck out of that guy. Get a fan base that wants to come and see this guy play. And market that guy. Listen, there's an interesting, by the way, Joey Capinos is in here. Small fields are a goalkeeper's worst nightmare. Loved multi-point scoring. You two are great. That's a note from Joey Capinos. I'm glad you're watching, Joey. So there's no relegation in between M2 and M1. You can be, those are two completely different organizations in the sense that a lot of guys, a lot of fans will look at, you've got a really successful M2 plan going on. Why doesn't that team just naturally move up to M1? Can you talk a little bit about why that isn't part of the deal?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing in MLS. It's money. It's just, in Italy, Serie A, Serie B, I mean, a Serie B team usually has the same financing and the same stadium as a Serie A1 team. So if they get relegated up, I mean, everything's in place. Travel's minimal because it's bus or train. It's not like they're flying cross country. So and their salaries are their salaries, and if they got to bring in one or two players, it's easier. But in my case, I can't go to M1. I don't have the arena to do that. And there's teams in our league like Iowa and like I think Wichita should be an M1. I'm not crazy about the lines in their field. Obviously, there's football lines in their field, so I'd make them change that. But Wichita should be an M1. But I'm not sure there's any other teams in M2 that have everything, the structure, financial structure, and everything in place to jump up. And the same thing in USL / NASL and MLS, man. If you go to an MLS game and then you go to a USL game or MLS next game, it's like so night and day. The regular, it's never going to work. It's not going to work. And again, back to my theory, man. Forget about, I don't drink water from other countries. I drink American water. I mean, don't focus on what's going on in other countries. Focus on the NFL. That's it. NFL doesn't have a youth system. The NFL doesn't have an NFL B team. I mean, the Buffalo Bills are the Buffalo Bills. That's it. Your kid's not paying on the Buffalo Bills Pop Warner team. Pop Warner does their own thing. The Buffalo Bills don't have a Buffalo Bills 2 team playing in some indoor arena. You think like an NFL team. That's what you got to think like. And if you think like an NFL team, you'll be fine. Like, I'm so mad at Major League Soccer. They do the standings backward or the home and away backwards. They do, like the home team's always first in soccer and the away team second. So you're trying to attract casual sports fans in America. So I'm looking at the calendar and it says Inter Miami and New York City FC. Well, if New York City FC's second in America, that means that they're the home team. So I'm gonna go to a New York City FC game. Guess what? That game's in Miami because it's backwards. You know what I'm saying? The standings are backwards, or it's goofy, man. It's like, Why do we want to pretend we're in Europe, in England, in Italy, when those people don't support our sport? They're not flying here to support our sport. The NFL fan and the NBA fan, they're already here in our cities. That's who we should be catering to.
Do you feel the same way about branding?
Oh man,
when so many of these teams are like in so and so Dynamo or so and so FC, or instead of just being like American sports is so Bird's Eyes or anything, whatever. Just something with a nickname instead of a FC or a Dynamo or whatever. Do you feel the same way about that?
Yep, I hate FC. It means fried chicken in my world. I hate SC means Swiss cheese in my world. It's goofy, it's crazy, but again, they're trying to be like Europe, and I think MLS has survived. MLS has survived because they own their own stadiums, but I think that set them back. I think if New York City FC, whatever New York City FC tonight, if it was the New York Cosmos or the New York Arrows, and it'd have a whole different feel about it to the American sports fan. The American sports fan, again, all they got to do is go to the ratings on Sunday, man. Look at the NFL ratings. That's what you got to try to be like, man. The Dolphins, the Vikings, the Jets. That's what you got to be like. I mean, not FC this, FC that, United this, United that. It's like, it means nothing. I hate it.
Right.
I mean, I used to have a
it's
different.
Frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating to me as well. And I'll even go a little step further. I have a difficult time listening to somebody who's doing the play-by-play, call it pitch instead of a field, call it a kit instead of a uniform. I mean, it's like this attempt to be European when we're not. We never will be. We never were. In fact, we fought a freaking war not to be. You know.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it frustrates me to no end. And the other thing too, it's funny because, and this is all over sports. I mean, it's not just in soccer, although it prevails strongly in soccer, but it's also getting the guy who has the English accent to do the play-by-play. I mean, what's going on? And I'm not picking on anybody individual. I'm just saying that it's like, it's an American sport, it's an American game, it's on an American field in America. Why don't we have an American calling the game?
Greg, I mean, a lot of that is in my book, Saving Soccer, and it's on our website, soccersam.com. You could go and like the book's right there. But the nil, the pitch, I don't allow any of that. And Andrew Battisti, like I tell him, like, nil means absolutely nothing in America. Pitch means nothing. And the whole thing with the English commentator, and I agree with you, or the Italian commentator, like, you would never see me on Italian TV with broken Italian as a color commentary. It doesn't happen. It's right. Like, it doesn't happen. Why? It doesn't happen in the NBA. I mean, the NHL has Canadians, obviously, and they use some of their Canadian slang, but it sounds English, obviously. But NBA, NFL, it just doesn't happen. Again, why aren't we following American sports? And back, if you do some history like I have, because I have no life and I read a lot of what happened in the past. In the heyday of American soccer, indoor and outdoor, it felt like an American sport. There was American broadcasters, American color commentators. They had names, the Arrows, the San Diego Sockers, the Baltimore Blast. I mean, there wasn't all these FCCS and all this baloney. It's just so simple, man. That's what I mean. It's like, it's not simple to sell tickets, and it's not simple to bring in groups. And I feel for all the owners, but the rest of it is so freaking simple. Just follow what the NFL is doing, the NBA is doing, and you'll be all set.
Yeah. What have you got planned? What have you got planned coming up? Any new things going on in your life these days? I mean, relative to this upcoming season. Oh, by the way, one of the people earlier, I've been putting. There's a lot of guys. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to go off. I'm a little off schedule right here. But if you're watching and you want to make a chat remark, if you're watching on MASO Off the Wall, it does not identify it doesn't ID you as a viewer. It just says Facebook user. And I've been putting that up there. If you watch on Study on Soccer Facebook or Study on Soccer YouTube, I believe in both of those, it does identify you by name when you make a comment. So for those of you that have been commenting, and I've been putting the comments up, if it says Facebook user, that's not me doing that. That's simply because whichever one of the formats you're watching on it's not identifying you, and I apologize for that. I haven't been able to figure out how to make that work. Okay, so this guy, I just got this one. That's cool, Sonny. My name is not seen. I don't know who. I mean, I can't tell who that is. When the show is over, when the show is posted, all of these comments are identified to the individual, and I see that, and I see who's made the comments. But during the show, I don't get a chance to do that, and I apologize for that. I'll try to see if I can make that work. Sam, do you have? Oh, what I was going to say is one of the people that commented earlier was, what's going on with Doug Miller? Where is he? What's he doing? What's going on?
Doug Miller, the living legend of indoor and outdoor American soccer, is living in Orlando, Florida, coaching a youth club. And his daughter's getting married next month, or this month. Next month, October. His youngest daughter, who was an original junior Lancer dancer and a Lancer dancer, is getting married, Calissa, and going to the wedding, and I'll see him then. He came to the Inter Miami game with me. He loved it. He loves Messi now. He's wearing his Messi jersey all the time. But Doug feels just like we do. Doug grew up in an era where, it's an American sport. Let's keep it that way. Soccer is an American sport to me. My parents came from Italy, man, but I'm an American. I love, and I identify right now as an American sports fan, and that's where I'm at. But you asked me earlier, like, what's next for the Lancers or me. We're going to continue doing what we're doing with the Lancers. Right now at TSC, I'm going to do everything in my power to try to get an arena built somewhere eventually. And that'd be my retirement business. I'd love to be back in M1 with my own arena that I can control parking concessions, other events that I think all the owners should work on. Business wise, I'm just loving the Salvatore thing. We're going to Florida right now with more locations in Carolina. We have a franchisee who used to be the GM of the Rhinos, is the franchisee in Carolina. The franchisee in Florida is a doctor who his uncle is a good friend of mine who I played soccer with all my life. So this whole soccer connection is just unbelievable. But so Salvatore wise, we're expanding nationally. I'd love to figure out a way to get more soccer players that are retired and their bodies start breaking down and don't want to do the camps and clinics and train kids anymore to get a franchise. And I'd hook them up, like crazy to get them to do that in their own cities. My email, soccersam@soccersam.com. I got the same phone number, guys, I've had forever. Call me if you're interested. But I'd love to help the MASL. I've tried, I've offered. I'm there to help, man. I think anybody that was part of the Lancer era at the Blue Cross Arena, that was not an accident. We knew what we were doing. We had the right people around us, and we worked really, really hard at it. And it wasn't an accident. And it wasn't about free tickets, because everyone gives away free tickets.
Right.
It's getting those people that have the free tickets to want to come. I think the focus needs to be, my daughter's here tonight. Let me tell you why my daughter's here tonight. It's kind of important. My daughter's here tonight to come to the game with me because my grandson, who's 4 years old, wants to see Messi. And the reason he wants to see Messi is because Papa got him a Messi jersey and he had no idea who Messi was. But my daughter made him wear that jersey to an amusement park. And everywhere he went in that amusement park, people were saying, "Hey, Messi, hey, Messi, hey, Messi. Have you seen a game yet, Messi? Hey, Messi." That 4-year-old kid is curious to see who and how Messi is. He's here tonight. And if Messi doesn't play tonight, my boys, Joey Warriors, we're going to go break Messi's legs. I'm telling you that, because he better play tonight. But my grandson is here tonight to see Messi from that story I just told you. And you could do that in every single city in America. Get that guy with the mohawk, get that good-looking player, that guy that's got the abs and the ripped body, get him to take off his shirt after every game and interview him, get him on TV, create stars. That guy that just had 3 goals, make sure the next day you buy a billboard on the expressway. They're digital now. They're real easy to change. You could change the digital billboard in maybe 20 minutes. Put his picture on a billboard. Come and see the biggest star of the San Diego Sockers. Come and see the biggest star of the Tacoma Stars. It's that easy.
Right.
But I'm here to help. I hope some of the owners aren't mad at some of my comments. I'm not trying to be negative in any way. I just think I see as a fan more than I should. And I see as a former owner that maybe deep down is upset that I don't have a team anymore and don't have an arena anymore more than I should. And I want the sport to make it more than anything. So that's what I got, brother.
So one of the viewers here is asking, where is the Florida Salvatore? Where's the location?
Dr. Formoso is based in Jacksonville, Florida. He bought the area rights for Jacksonville, Florida. He's going to open 10 stores in 5 years. Carolina, Vince Patrone, former Rhinos GM, Vinny Patrone. He bought the rights to North Carolina and South Carolina. The first store, I think, is going to be in Cary, North Carolina. Him and his sons are working on the first store right now. The lease is done. And we have people all over the country, I call them tire kickers, asking a lot of questions. I do everything I can to discourage them, let them know it's not easy. But if you want to do it, you can make a lot of money at it, but it's not easy. And we're trying it, but it's definitely easier than running a professional soccer team. So next time you see Ed Hale, Shelley, Mike Zimmerman, Phil, you got to freaking suck their faces, man. You got to go up to them and suck their faces, because these people, it's the hardest business in the world, man. It really is. They're doing it because they love you. They love the sport, but they love you, the fans, and they don't want to let you down.
Right.
And that's how I feel when I had to, pull away from it. I let so many great people down. And I feel like now I'm at least giving back to those 500 season ticket holders that love it. We're sold out every game because they're all season ticket holders, but I love it. But, I love the league meetings, Greg. I mean, I got to get you to come to a league meeting. Bud Budzinski, Brian Budzinski's there, and like they're all such great people that love the sport. I don't think you see that in other sports. You got a bunch of owners that just love this sport. The Mexican owners, man, they just freaking love this sport. And if you do the math, it's really simple to do. How many games you play, what your payroll is, what your overhead is. It's impossible to make money at the sport without a TV deal. It's impossible to make money at the sport without an arena deal, with an arena you own, with concessions and parking. It's impossible. So the only teams that maybe are making money, and is probably Utica, and probably Phil will in San Diego very soon. All the other teams are doing it for the love of the game, love of the players, love of the sport. So you got to love these owners back.
No, I absolutely do, and it's been my pleasure to hang out occasionally with you, and like at the Florida game that you so graciously sponsored my travel for, and being able to hang out with you and Ed at Ed Hale at that game, and then also in Kansas City in the owner's box, hanging out with you and a couple of the other guys. Tommy Tanner was there, and Brian was there. And then, of course, I know I've met also at the same event, Shelley, and I know Lane Smith as well, Phil Salvaggio. I mean, all of these guys, and every single one of them, I can't give enough appreciation to each one of these guys and women, because it is my passion. I mean, I love the sport beyond anything, and and having it exist back again. It's broken my heart so many times, like we spoke about the alphabet soup thing. I mean, it's broken my heart so many times watching leagues and teams fold. And then, and at one point when I think it was the second time that the Sockers folded, I kind of threw up my hands. It's like, I mean, it's gone again. And will it ever come back? And then it started back up here in San Diego at the Del Mar Equestrian Facility with the San Diego Sockers. At the Del Mar racetrack, for crying out loud. They were playing on a horse field, and it's getting back into the Pechanga Arena. I know that's a costly location. What Phil's doing here in San Diego is super exciting, and it speaks a lot. It speaks a lot to not just Phil Salvaggio, but to what he believes anyway is a commitment going forward to the sport and the league itself. I mean, it's a huge commitment and investment on behalf of him to make that kind of a statement. Here, I'm going to build an arena, and as a fan, all that makes me think is, well, shoot, then obviously there is going to be a history with this sport. It's going to continue going forward. And you yourself, you're in same place. I mean, I hold you in the same regard. I mean, your love and passion for the sport and your commitment to the fans and keeping this thing going, it's outstanding. It's just outstanding.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. I mean, and what you're doing right now for the sport is just truly amazing. And I hope, the owners recognize that and appreciate that. And I can tell you all the years I did it for the Rhinos, I think years later, the owners realized how much I wanted to help them. And it wasn't about money. And, there's no money to be made at what we're doing to support the sport. But I appreciate what you're doing, too. And I just hope the league could make some tough decisions and tighten things up a little bit and maybe find that one person that could get the Nickelodeon or the Apple to buy in. And I think if somebody saw this game played the way the games you and I have seen, you mentioned the tropics. I got to say, do we got time still, or are we on a time crunch here? I don't.
We can keep going. We can keep going as long as you have time.
So when the tropics announced that they were going to fold, I called the I had a connection, and I called the supervisor of that area, Lakeland, and we talked, and I begged him to change his mindset of what they're charging rent. And I tried to explain to him the business, and they just look at it, again, if that supervisor or that mayor or their county executive was a soccer nut or a soccer fan like us, they probably wouldn't charge these teams what they're charging them. They'd roll out the red carpet and understand that we have a pro sports team in a little city or a little town like Lakeland, Florida. Let's roll out the red carpet and make it like the Green Bay Packers. Let's make it bigger than life. But I tried everything to try to make that happen behind the scenes. But I just hope that the league could maybe tighten up the season, shorten the season, have consistent dates when they play at home. Don't allow teams to play during the week. Figure out a way to make it work where teams don't have a 4-week off or a month off. Think NFL, think star players, and think of finding that bid writer and that lobbyist. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Let's hire lobbyists to build us arenas in each city. They're out there. We got to find them. It's dirty politics. I think we all know now more than ever that politics are really, really dirty. Just get on the side that's dirtier and get that free arena. That's all. That's how I look at it, man. It's like, I don't care about whatever my personal political beliefs are mine and they're personal. But baby, if you are the one that's going to give me that arena and you're as dirty as they come, I'm going with your side. And we're build me that arena, baby.
So, and it is, this whole conversation is centered around a lot of different, facets that kind of need to come into place at the same time or somewhat simultaneously in order for it really to work. I mean, you're talking about scheduling, every Monday or every Wednesday and Saturday, like Inter Milan is doing, or Inter Miami is doing, or typically Sunday is, NFL, that kind of thing. But being the third or fourth person in the priority scheduling of a particular venue, when you've got 4 or 5 different teams, sports competing at the same time, whether it's lacrosse or basketball or hockey or indoor soccer or indoor football, arena football, for crying out loud. I mean, whatever it is, and they're all playing in the same venue, and they all and the soccer team tends to be the fourth guy in line for getting dates. The scheduling has got to be maddening. I mean, I know that a lot of people are right now sitting there wanting the MASL to come out with their schedule. What's taking them so long? Why isn't it out there yet? But I mean, when you're the third or fourth guy on the priority list for a particular venue, and it can't be an easy thing. Not just to schedule it, but to market it as well. Because you do end up with the Thursday night game or the Wednesday night game or the Monday night game, in order just to not have a week and a half off between games, because you need to play instead of having that expansion of time. It's frustrating from everybody's standpoint. I'm sure the owners, the fans, the players, from everybody's standpoint.
But I have a simple solution, Greg. Simple. This solution is so simple. Back to what I said earlier. Think NFL. Why are you playing 12 home games if you can't get dates in your arena? Why aren't you playing 6 or 8 home games? Why isn't it a 12 game season or a 16 game season? I mean, that just makes common sense, because the mindset is, well, because the sponsors don't care how many games you're playing. They care about how many impressions they're getting, how many people are in the arena. So if you had 6 home games and you had 10,000 people at each home game, it's the same thing as having 12 home games with 5,000 people at each home game. But meanwhile, you have prime dates and you could juggle it better. And you could play on Saturday night. And it's just again, it's common sense. None of it. I mean, it's such a simple fix, all of it. And it's just
Mm.
mind boggling to me and how it's not fixed. Play less games, shorter season.
Mm.
Shorter season, you keep people's interest longer. If the longer the season goes, you're losing interest. NFL, it's a tight season. You know when it starts, you know when it ends. You know the Super Bowl is always the first weekend of February. It's always the same. Try to follow that footprint, and it all gets better. But right now, I mean, it's not that late, but forever you always had to wait for the lacrosse and the hockey schedules to come out. And sometimes they didn't come out to the end of August, sometimes September. I know we're probably a month delayed right now, but everything has gotten slower than COVID. Everybody uses COVID as an excuse. So these guys that run these arenas that are giving you dates, they're all working from home right now. So when you work from home, you work half the time. So nothing's getting done. So, I mean, that's what's going on. So I think you'll see a schedule soon, but if they really want the sport to turn around, get the lobbyists to build the arena, shorten the season, less home dates, do a 12-game schedule, think NFL in the early days, and then as the league grows, you add more games. If the players are getting a set salary, they're making more per game, so the players will be happy. If the mindset is, well, if we play 12 home games, it's the same math. I mean, you're paying that guy either way. If you play 6 games or play 12 games, you're paying him. If you're not bringing any more money in at 12 games, it's the same math. Play 6 home games, keep it simple, get prime dates, play consistent dates. It's too easy, man. The fix is too easy.
So M2 in your area is going to be pretty fun because you got Baltimore is sponsoring an M2 team now, I guess, and Utica is sponsoring an indoor team, an M2 team also. So it's picked up in your region, up in Rochester. It's the travel expenses might not be so much, being having that close knit sort of camaraderie going on within the area. Also, it's somewhat exciting that because I mean, indoor soccer has a sort of a tradition of attrition, and this year we lost the Tropics, and that's unfortunate. But it's the only team in M1. That's the only team that's not going to be there that was there last season. And then we picked up a team in Guadalajara, which is kind of fun. Another team from Mexico, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So it's I think it's looking good on the long haul. Sam, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your time, buddy. I always love talking to you. I appreciate you, and I love our friendship. It's been a long time growing, and it really is a cool thing to be able to sit down and chat with you here. You've shared your heart here today. All the viewers are going to appreciate that. Thanks very much for coming on, Soccer Sam.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Have a great weekend, brother.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Great study. Soccer Sam Fantauzzo. Yeah, my pleasure, man. Soccer Sam Fantauzzo, thanks for coming on. And thanks, everybody, for watching. It's been a great Saturday morning here in